This so-called mini console is an absolute beast. It is the absolute best way to play Neo Geo games, and you need to get your hands on one while you still can.
Eight-bit joystick.
The Neo Geo Arcade Stick Pro is the biggest, most hardcore mini console ever, to the point that it doesn't really deserve to be called a mini console because there's nothing miniature about it. The SNK Neo Geo was a two-dimensional graphical beast, capable of best-in-class arcade graphics and sound, and it was home to some of the best fighting games ever made. It featured powerful 24-bit games that were massive, and it revolutionized the arcade industry. SNK took the best idea from the home console market and brought it to the arcades, and it changed gaming forever. Cartridges. In 1990, the SNK Neo Geo multi-video game system, NVS, brought the concept of interchangeable cartridges of home game systems to the arcade, and most NVS cabinets offered gamers a choice between 4 Neo Geo games. Arcade owners could update the games easily by swapping out the giant NVS cartridges inside the cabinet. Then, in 1991, SNK offered a way to bring the Neo Geo home with the Advanced Entertainment System, AES. The AES was the most expensive home video game console ever released, costing $650, the equivalent of $1,516 in 2024, and each game was around $200 or $466 today. However, it delivered the exact same hardware between the arcade versions and the home versions. However, they used slightly different cartridge formats, but there were adapters available because NVS arcade cartridges are a little easier to come by and are noticeably cheaper but still quite expensive. So, most gamers gave up on the idea of owning real SNK Neo Geo hardware, and we made do with ports of Neo Geo games to lesser powerful 16-bit systems, or with the loading times of Neo Geo games being ported to the PlayStation 1 and the Sega Saturn. The idea of being able to bring home official SNK hardware to play Neo Geo games without breaking the bank was renewed when they announced the Neo Geo Mini some decades later in 2018. Sure, it was through emulation, but it had a cool design of an SNK arcade cab with an LCD screen built in. But it was loaded with 40 games, and the arrangement of the games varied depending on the Japanese or the overseas version. They made a major mistake in making this mini system, and it resulted in what I consider to be the fatal flaw of the hardware. They included a mini analog stick, and then they doubled down and put a mini analog stick on the official gamepad for it. This is especially egregious since every single Neo Geo game was designed for a digital joystick. The Neo Geo had a long history with some of the best clicky micro-switch digital arcade-style joystick controls in every version of all of their previous hardware. Despite using standard USB-C connectors, the original Neo Geo Mini would not work with almost all the existing controllers on the market. They also used a mini HDMI port, and the video output from the HDMI is pretty heavily aliased and blurry, even on the so-called sharp setting. Personally, I wish that they would make a new Neo Geo Mini with clicky buttons and no regional differences in games and crisp, clean HDMI output. So gamers were very vocal with their displeasure, and SNK, to their credit, learned from their criticisms and planned a follow-up mini console, and in doing so, they created the best way to play Neo Geo games at home. In 2020, the SNK Arcade Stick Pro was released. It is a vastly superior experience than the Neo Geo Mini. The Arcade Stick Pro is both an awesome micro-switch arcade stick that can be used with the Neo Geo Mini, a RetroPie, Mac and PC, and it is a mini console itself. It is a very accurate, very fast emulator that has save states and all the modern conveniences you could want. They didn't just make a controller for the Neo Geo Mini, they made a better system. They included a total of 40 Neo Geo games with a focus on some of the best fighting games ever. Now, SNK did something weird. They had 20 fighting games playable at launch, but they actually included 20 more games on the system, but they were hidden. All throughout 2020, they would announce more games and you had to go to their website and download a key file and put it on a USB thumb drive and then stick it into the unit and unlock the games through the system menu update. You are not downloading the games, they were already on the system. It's a little weird, but a link to the instructions on how to do this are in the video description. Now, on to the games. The King of Fighters 95, The King of Fighters 97, The King of Fighters 98, The King of Fighters 99, The King of Fighters 2000, The King of Fighters 2002, Fatal Fury Special, Fatal Fury 3, Garou Mark of the Wolves, Samurai Showdown 2, Samurai Showdown 3, Samurai Showdown 4, Samurai Showdown 5 Special, Art of Fighting, World Heroes 2, World Heroes 2 Jet, World Heroes Perfect, Ninja Masters, The Last Blade 2, Kizuna Encounter, and then there are the unlockable games, Metal Slug 2, The Last Blade, Metal Slug, Shock Troopers, Fatal Fury, League Bowling, Savage Rain, Metal Slug 3, Super Sidekicks, Metal Slug X, The Super Spy, Ninja Combat, Fatal Fury 2, Soccer Brawl, Real Bout Fatal Fury Special, Shock Troopers Second Squad, Samurai Showdown, Metal Slug 4, The Path of the Warrior Art of Fighting 3, and Metal Slug 5. So the first thing that you notice about the Neo Geo Arcade Stick Pro is the size of it. Technically, it's a mini console because you can hook it up to a TV and play video games off it, but there is almost nothing miniature about it. It is a big boy with nice rounded ergonomic shape and enough weight on the bottom so that it's pretty stable both on your lap and sitting on a table in front of you. The color scheme might seem a little weird because in the West the MVS had a red and black design and the AES was mostly black. But the Neo Geo MVS Candy Cab arcade cabinet in Japan was white with a red ball joystick and multicolored buttons. The joystick is perfect. It is clicky and has a ring on the bottom of it and a Japanese style ball on the top of it. But if you prefer a bat stick joystick, there is a port on the bottom that is covered by a piece of rubber that you could unscrew the ball through and swap out the bat, but I prefer a ball-topped joystick. The buttons are convex and are pretty good, but if you really want to, you can modify them with actual arcade buttons. They use standard size arcade size buttons and sticks for people who are down with modifying joysticks. Now, the Neo Geo AES and NVS had 4 buttons in a line. The Arcade Stick Pro has a total of 8 buttons with 2 rows of 4. So, if you are a Neo Geo purist, you can have your horizontal rows of buttons. And if you like the more modern layout, you can have your 4 buttons in a diamond. And if you want to use it to play a Street Fighter type game, when it's connected to your PC or RetroPie via USB, then you got your 6 buttons in a row for your Capcom gaming. So, unlike the Neo Geo Mini, this one has a real full-sized HDMI port, and it also has all the graphics modes that you could want, and includes some that you probably don't want. Pixel scaling has nice, lush, crispy pixels and the way Neo Geo was meant to look. And then there's a blurred edges mode if you are into that kind of thing. I am not. Then there is a horizontal scanline mode, which is passable. Strangely, There's a vertical scanline mode, which is weird because none of the games are tate mode. And even weirder, there's a 45-degree scanline mode, which is strange because there are no TVs that operate like that, so I don't know what they're going for. There's also a perfect 4:3 aspect ratio, and then there's a widescreen mode, which I personally would not use except for one special use. Normally, I scoff at the idea of playing a 4:3 aspect ratio game in a widescreen presentation. However, you can get an HDMI to AV adapter and play it on a CRT TV. I got this little Amazon Basics one, and it takes a widescreen HDMI signal and then it outputs it to a 4:3 aspect ratio. Just don't forget to set the graphics mode to pixel scaling and let the TV do its thing. That is pretty cool. On the bottom, there are two USB-C ports for hooking up external controllers and a headphone jack. On the top, there's a USB-C port for power and a full-sized HDMI connector that outputs nice and crisp HDMI signal, and a USB-A port which you have to use to unlock all the games. On the left-hand side, there's a pretty big bay door, but they included a right-angle USB-C connector to use with the NEOGEO Mini. On the right-hand side, there are a lot of buttons and dip switches. You can also hook it up to a Windows PC or a Macintosh by setting it to controller mode and PC mode. I'm unsure if it works with a Mister, so if you have both, post a comment and let me know, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Sadly, it does not work with the Analog Pocket dock, which is a shame because I would have enjoyed playing Neo Geo games on it. Now, you need to get one of these suckers while you still can. Time is running out to get one of these things new or at a reasonable price, and you need to move to get one while you still can. If you see one at your local game store, buy it. And if you see them online, order one as soon as you see it in stock. They're probably not going to make any more, and flippers are only going to start charging more and more for them. We seem to be entering an era where companies that have a legacy of making retro gaming hardware are hesitant to put out new hardware for playing retro games. Not only would I consider the Neo Geo Arcade Stick Pro the ultimate mini console, it might be the last one, and that's a crying shame. So now is the time to get a Neo Geo Arcade Stick Pro because it's probably the closest to playing Neo Geo games on official hardware made by SNK that you're gonna get without cashing out your 401k to do so. Next week, what's in this new retro box from Japan? My kitty Guy here wanted to let you know that we make awesome videos like this each week, so make sure that you are subscribed to this channel so you don't miss them. This is 8-Bit Joystick. Stay awesome, play retro.